Philippa, have you performed in Norwich before?
I have, a couple of times. I definitely came here with Jeff and Adrian on their little tour with their books, the Seriously Funny tour, Adrian Plass and Jeff Lucas. So that was nice, and there was a really nice response actually. Very friendly town.
And how's the tour going? How's the big church night in tour going?
Well, this is night number 3, and both of them have been great, and we're really looking forward to tonight. Just seems to be getting better and better, so exciting.
Well, what's the format? What happens?
The format is the show opens at 7:30. Stuart Townend kind of introduces me, and I'm coming on stage with a guitarist friend of mine called Rue Walker, and we perform about 40-45 minutes of my songs, and I tell my story a little bit, talk a bit about my faith, and then I'm sharing about international children's charity Compassion. So that's how I close the first half, and then Stuart entertains the audience for about an hour, I think, after the break. So it's it's a really nice evening.
You've got an album that's come out fairly recently, haven't you?
Yeah, it came out on the 1st of July this year.
Yeah, well, how's that gone down with people?
Really well. It went to number 2 in the official Christian and Gospel chart, and sort of hovered in around kind of 80 in the pop chart, which was really unexpected. We really weren't aiming for that at all, so we were really kind of pleased with that. And yeah, it's been really well received. It's kind of quite different really for the Christian market in the UK. It's very folky, it's very story based, it's got some fairy tale themes, just kind of a way of bringing over ideas in a different way. And I think it's been really well received.
And are you sort of trying to move more into the secular market? Would you like to do that? Or?
I don't have any kind of a plan, and I feel that that's kind of it's a decision I've taken really, to not aim for anything, just let God do the aiming and just try and be obedient daily. So God has opened some great doors for the mainstream market, and I'm just kind of walking through things, but it's certainly not my intention to change my message or change my identity in any way.
Okay, and some of your fans helped to pay for the production of the album?
That's right, yeah, we did a crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter, and we just basically put up a list of things they could kind of bid for, if you like, and everything from back catalogue to posters to a day in the studio with us, and we had an entire choir of people sing on the album actually that pledged to do that, which I think is a really nice way to do things in this day and age, because it means that you can still kind of move forward without a label. And it means you can sort of retain your identity and the message behind your songs.
Okay, and have you got favourite songs from the album?
I really love Lighthouse. That's why I kind of led with that as a single. I like it because it's got this message about being found and being saved and stuff, but it's totally palatable for someone who's not Christian. So I feel like it represents me really well without putting anyone off, hopefully. So and it's got a real folky sound to it. It's got a nice banjo and mandolin and things like that. So it sort of takes me back to my kind of Irish roots.
Now you supported Lionel Richie, haven't you? Quite recently, last year, was it? Yeah,
this time last year I was on the road on a UK arena tour with Mr. Lionel Richie, which was epic. It was massive and just such a great opportunity. It was really, really good.
So how did that come about?
I did some concerts in my hometown of Sheffield, and one of them was a concert at the City Hall. I did a warm-up slot for a local songwriter, and there just happened to be a tour manager there who was kind of moving in those circles. And he said, he approached me afterwards, we made friends, and he said, I'd really love to see you on a big stage, and if you're up for it, I might make some phone calls. So it was almost a year later when he said, have you heard that Lionel Richie's touring the UK? And I said, yeah, can you get me a ticket? kind of thing. And he said, I think I might be able to get you the support slot. So obviously I was blown away and terrified, but thought, this is something we cannot pass up on. So we just went for it, and it was just unbelievable, great experience.
I mean, what was it like performing the O2? It
was interesting. The night before, we'd actually performed in Birmingham. That's where the tour started, and it was my first experience of performing in an arena, and I had no idea how it was going to go. And I actually came off stage on the first night feeling like terrified and just thinking I can't even remember what I said, or just kind of feeling a bit shell shocked. And the following night was going to be the O2 Arena, so I sort of went to my parents-in-law and had a bit of a moan to them about how kind of scared I was feeling. And my father-in-law said, "Do you know what? David slew Goliath with a single stone and a slingshot. So if he can do that, you can take your acoustic guitar and win the O2 Arena." So I actually felt really good about it at the time.
And you're going to do something similar in December. Is that where?
Yeah, so straight after the big church night in finishes, it's straight on to Manchester, where I'll be opening up for Wet 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 on their kind of greatest hits tour.
So what are you thinking about that? How do you feel about that?
I feel really good about it. I don't feel as scared this time. I think part of what made me so scared was the unknown factor, and also the fact that I've been listening to Lionel Richie since I was a kid, and it was one of my biggest influences. Whereas I love Wet Wet Wet, but I didn't have that kind of, sort of starstruck feeling about meeting them. So I'm really excited about it.
Okay, now you come from a musical family, so has that made it easier or harder or means that leading into your own musical career? How does that?
I think that we were talking about this last night. I think there's obviously the influence of being brought up around music and singing with the family and watching my dad perform on stages from since I was a baby. But I actually think there's a real genetic thing as well. I just think that in our family, people genetically can sing and play. It seems to be just a musical kind of gene. So I've always been musical. My earliest memories of singing to the family, so I've just always been into it.
Now, your Christian faith comes through strongly in many of your songs. I mean, is that important to you?
It's everything. I wouldn't be here without it. It's for me. I really did. All the cliche things. I saw the light. I got saved, but I was in such a bad place, and becoming a Christian actually just gave me life. I really couldn't have seen past tomorrow without it. So I think everything that's happening is a massive, massive bonus. But just to feel healthy and well and hopeful and is like that's what my faith gives me.
Now, you said before that your journey to faith was not an easy one. What do you mean by that?
Wasn't raised with a faith. My family weren't in any way religious or church going or anything. So I just sort of went through the usual teenage things of making up my own ideas of what I believed, and I actually was very interested in the supernatural. I had a bunch of books about angels and astrology, and was very open spiritually and a bit vulnerable. And I think being a teenager, trying to figure out who you are and stuff, made some really bad choices with relationships and bad choices with lifestyle. And so I came out of the back end of my teens feeling a bit jaded and a bit disillusioned about life. I was struggling to get my career in music together. And I think I hit this kind of pre-life crisis, which a lot of young people have, where you just don't have anything sorted, and we've got no idea what the future holds. And it was around that time that I met some Christians, and I just couldn't believe how purpose-filled their lives were, and I was dead jealous, and I just thought, if only I could feel like they seemed to feel. And it wasn't rubbing off. I was seeing it through them, but I wasn't feeling it. And then had a bit of an encounter, really. I went to a worship meeting and found myself praying, pure desperation. It had been a really bad week. I was having a really bad day and a bad year. And I found myself praying, and then from the next day onwards, this kind of chain of events unfolded, which seemed to spiral upwards. And before I knew it, I was just leading this kind of full Christian, passionate evangelistic life.
Now, a lot of your songs seem to be about personal experiences that you've had. I mean, that's deliberate, presumably.
Yeah, I think for me it's actually quite therapeutic writing songs, and they are very personal at time, and it's a way of kind of working through emotions and experiences, and so it's great that people can actually relate to them as well. So it's quite an exposing thing. Sometimes I feel a little bit exposed talking about my life, and very honestly about my struggles with moving into this new faith, and just the struggles we have as Christians, because there's a misconception, isn't there, that being a Christian makes you perfect and makes you, I think people expect Christians to behave like saints and, be a perfect example. And actually, it's not that at all. It's more that we've just people who've recognised we need Jesus and have accepted him. And I think, as a result, our behaviour does gradually get a lot better, but that's not the thing. The behaviour is the byproduct, isn't it? So, I do try and be honest about those things and put them into music.
You seem to identify a lot with young people and the struggles that they go through.
Yeah, I was speaking to a lady last night who said there's a lot of young women here who I think can relate to what you're saying, but also that there's a lot of older women who can relate to what you're saying, and I think it's a very, very age-old struggle that women and men have with their identity, and I think half of it comes from the fact that we fell away from from being plugged into our Father and having a relationship with our Father in heaven. So I think I try and be honest about the fact that the world fills your head with rubbish, and Jesus helps to strip that away if you will let him. So when I was a teenager, I struggled massively with thinking I wasn't good enough, and in every way, personality, looks, and especially trying to make it as a musician. It's massively competitive and it's very image based, and I just got this immense freedom in Christ, knowing that he designed me and planned my life and has good things for me to do, and grabbing onto that, living out of that, has just changed everything.
Now, a couple of years ago you visited Haiti, didn't you, with Compassion?
Yeah, in 2009.
Well, just tell me about that.
Well, they invited me to see their work firsthand because I'd been sort of supporting the charity and sponsoring, and I was very keen on their work. I thought they were doing a great job, lifting thousands and thousands of children out of poverty over the world. And so when they asked me to be an advocate, I said absolutely, I'd love to be able to promote the cause. But they sort of said, for you to really promote this, you need to know what actually goes on. You need to see it, and you need to taste poverty to fully empathise. So we went over to Haiti, and it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and it was absolutely like it was like being hit by this train of reality. Suddenly realising how cushioned we are in Western society, how easy we have it. And we really do. And I know that we've got our struggles here, but, when you've seen children washing in dirty water and drinking water you would honestly pull your dog away from, you just think, wow, our perspective is not clear on these things. So, I came back a bit, I was a bit out of sorts for a couple of weeks because I was trying to put it together in my head. How can we let this go on? And the only reason that I sort of picked myself up and went, what, we need to put our best foot forward, is that, we can really be the change in this. We can, by sponsoring, change one child's world, one family's world, and collectively that changes a nation. So it wasn't a nice experience. It was very daunting, but I wouldn't change it because I think it's opened my eyes a bit.
Your autobiography, Following the Breadcrumbs, was it easy to write?
No, it wasn't easy. There was always this kind of, how honest should I really be, kind of thought in my head, and I got some advice from the editor, and they said, you need to put everything in there. We can always take things out, put everything in there. So I really did just kind of share the whole experience, everything I was feeling, of this kind of transition from being kind of a broken and fed up young woman to sort of like gradually one day at a time moving into a new life. I just sort of recorded it. And so it's kind of written, not exactly like a diary, but it's written in chronological order, and it's separated in these little chapters of these tiny miracles. So it would just be one thing at a time. It would be meeting Christian friends, finding a church, moving into a new job, moving into ministry, music ministry, learning guitar, meeting my husband, and my parents getting saved. It's just an incredible story of tiny miracles that made up this big miracle kind of thing.
Where did the title come from?
Well, the whole album is kind of fairy tale themed. So I've used like the story of Snow White and her biting into a poisoned fruit, and the story of Red Riding Hood, how she was kind of being constantly sort of chased by wolves and deceived by people disguised as other things. Kind of using all these like illustrations to talk about Jesus, really. And it just sort of struck me as a nice fairy tale title, that being led out of my old life didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like being teleported. It was like God just dropped little breadcrumbs to lead me out of the forest. And so yeah, I thought it was a nice fairy tale kind of spin on that.
And what's next for you?
Well, there's the tour with Wet, 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 and then in the year 2014, I'll be doing my UK tour with the book and my new album. So yeah, we're going across the UK with the band and sharing the new music, and then hopefully recording some new material.
You like to come back to Norwich, Norfolk?
Oh, I hope so. Love this part of the world.
Great, thank you very much.
I've always wanted a friend like you, someone I could tell my secrets to, and I would hold you all of the time, just because you're mine. And I could paint your face in a million ways, with cherry lips so that you could taste all the sweet kisses I could put your way, each and every day. 'Cause you are beautifully and wonderfully made. I don't make mistakes and I wouldn't change a thing. I loved you from the day I brought you home. I loved you since the day that you were sown. Every stitch, every seam of you is just how I dreamed of you.